What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So we had heard rumors for Game Pass and xCloud going to the Switch for a while now, right? Remember, a year or so ago, we of course had some serious rumors come out for it, and then we had like Phil Spencer and others at Microsoft kind of lean into it by saying they were trying to put Game Pass and xCloud everywhere. Well, we have some very recent comments from Phil Spencer talking Game Pass on Switch and PlayStation 4, and it's probably not the news a lot of people were hoping for, but we're going to go over that one today. Also, I want to go over a pretty interesting move that Microsoft could be making here soon that would be big time for xCloud, and it looks like we may have some PlayStation 5 demos getting set up in stores. Maybe. There might be even more to that story as well. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure to hit the like button. Helps out a ton. If you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below as we head towards 500,000 subscribers. And we're going to start today with Samurai Jack. It's gone under the radar a little bit recently because, of course, we're talking about next gen and these big time games from Sony and soon to be Microsoft. But I have to say, I'm looking forward to Samurai Jack Battle Through Time. And great news, we won't have to wait much longer to play it. They told us mid-August, but they didn't really settle on an exact date until now. They also put out this brand new trailer here, which looks great. It's coming out August 21st. It'll, of course, be on the Switch, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC for a price of $39.99, which I think is a fair price. They're not looking to make this big budget, massive Samurai Jack game. It's more or less there for fans of the series who want a new game, since the last one we had was on, the PS2? It's been a while, right? Like I said, I remember playing that what feels like forever ago. It's awesome to see a new game, and I've said this before, not in a bad way, it kind of reminds me of the PS2 era games. It's a 3D action beat-em-up style game where you unlock different moves, it seems, as you go through. But of course, definitive start, definitive end. It's not like a live service game, nothing like that. To me, it just kind of calls back to the old days of games back in the PS2 era when we had that other Samurai Jack game. So I'm looking forward to this, and we don't have to wait much longer, just about a month. Also, we know Crysis, of course, is coming out on the Switch in just a few days on the 23rd. And there were still some questions around, of course, Crysis just running on the Switch. It still seems strange to a lot of people because a game that would bring old PCs at the time to their knees, right, that were still very powerful, 8800 GTXs and all of this, we're going to see this on a handheld device running off battery. Very odd, I know. But there were questions about resolution and frame rate, and Crytek did come out with the numbers. So we now know that in docked mode, it'll be 700 or 720p up to 900p. So it'll be a dynamic resolution that will shift depending on what's happening on screen. And they're aiming for a stable 30 frames per second. There was talk about their software-based ray tracing solution that will probably be implemented in the other versions of the game. Unfortunately, does not look like that will be in the Switch version, as they're opting to try to work on a stable frame rate, and I guess adding that in, yes, would have hurt the frame rate to the point that was deemed unacceptable. Now, in handheld mode, it will also have a range when it comes to resolution of 540p to 720p, which is kind of what we were used to with Doom. So in handheld mode, if you were fine with Doom, you'll most likely be fine with Crysis, but it will still come down to that frame rate because, of course, a choppy frame rate will ruin the experience for something like Crysis, being, of course, a first-person shooter. So hopefully, even if the resolution does drop at times, it stays at a stable 30 frames per second. Either way, Crysis is an awesome game, and I'm going to pick it up because I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation to have about a game like Crysis being on a handheld device. Oh, and if you're someone who's been playing Deadly Premonition 2, you probably know the biggest weak point of that game is the frame rate. It's, I guess unplayable would be a nice way to put it. That's putting it lightly. It's not great. It's embarrassing, I would say, for the studio there, but it looks like they are working to fix that, as they have put out a patch now that is working to address that. Now you can see some of the comments put out here by Swery where it says, of course we also fixed bugs, glitches that we knew. Regarding frame rate improvement, we plan to gradually improve it. This patch is only partially fixing of frame rate, but we are preparing the next patch after this ASAP. Please expect and wait. So, okay, the frame rate being ironed out obviously is the most important part because it is downright atrocious at times. And we're talking about where it's dropping down into the single digits. It's like that, obviously, that's like when it becomes a slideshow, I'm not really sure how you're able to play the game well at that point. So if they can get this to an acceptable frame rate, I think it'll be a much more interesting experience to go to. But until then, until we see these patches, it's hard to recommend it. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're going to start right away with Game Pass on the Switch, on the PlayStation 4, but the big rumor was about Game Pass possibly making its way to the Switch through xCloud. Now, of course, xCloud being their streaming service that is going to mobile phones. It's been on mobile phones in like a closed alpha. I've been using it here and there just to try it out as they've added new games, and it's pretty good. It's still streaming, so you can still feel some input lag, of course, but for the most part, it's fairly responsive. And while I don't really go out and play it on like mobile towers or anything like that, I mostly stick to Wi-Fi. It's worked pretty well. But the idea of it going to the Switch is, I'll say, compelling. I mean, think about that. You have, of course, at that time, Nintendo's first-party games, but also all the third-party support that Microsoft would take and add to xCloud, as well as their own first-party games. That'd make the Switch very, very good. Obviously, that'd be a big improvement overall because it would just be more games for you to be able to play on your Switch. But unfortunately, with some recent comments from Phil Spencer, it doesn't look like that's happening, at least in the near, even distant future. This is what he had to say. The thing about other gaming console platforms is we're not able to bring a full Xbox experience on those platforms. In places where we have like mobile phones that like we're doing now with xCloud coming to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, what we've done with PC and bringing our full Xbox experience there, because we know when somebody is playing one of our Xbox games, there is an expectation that I've got my Xbox Live community, I have my achievements, Game Pass is an option for me. My first-party library is completely there. The other competitive platforms aren't really that interested in having a full Xbox experience on their hardware, but for us, we want to be where gamers want to be, and that's the path we're on. Now, this right here was an interview with the German website GameStar, and so what he's essentially saying here, Phil Spencer, is there's probably a lot that would have to go into having Game Pass, which is now obviously Game Pass Ultimate, with xCloud integrated. They want the whole thing there. They don't want to piecemeal this or, oh, this game can be there, but this one can't. Can we integrate the friends list? Can we have basically Xbox Live Gold as part of your system? It starts to become kind of intrusive on the OS of the Switch or even Sony's PlayStation. And look, Sony makes a lot of money from their PlayStation Network. I don't know if they want to just be like, oh yeah, you can also sign into Xbox Live on our system straight up. Minecraft is a bit different because you do it in the game, not from like your system itself. Like you go into settings, you have account details and all this. Oh, there's Xbox Live. No, all of that takes place in Minecraft. So it's a bit different when you have Microsoft having to add quite a bit to your OS, specifically with Nintendo. Now, obviously Sony is competing with Microsoft, so to me that always seems strange. But like, Nintendo has been out there saying we're doing our own thing, and I will tell you, there were a lot of rumors, and it seemed like there were talks that legitimately happened about Game Pass and maybe even xCloud going to the Switch in some capacity. But it seems like the way that they are going now, where they have shifted over, xCloud has become part of Game Pass, at least Game Pass Ultimate coming up here soon. Microsoft is full speed ahead on Game Pass and subscription services. So it does sound like that would be something they'd want to do. But think about it this way. If Nintendo had Game Pass and xCloud on their system and they are not getting any kind of revenue from it, would that keep people on the Switch or make them less likely to go on the eShop and buy a game if there are just games that they can play that they are either buying from Microsoft through their subscription service or just, I guess, buying straight up and playing through xCloud? That is something to think about, and it's a bit concerning for Nintendo, especially since Microsoft is starting to get even some of the smaller-ish games on the Game Pass as a day one release. Crosscode, for example, came out on consoles and it launched on Game Pass while it came out on the Switch at $20. So let's say you have that xCloud app or Game Pass app because it's Crosscode. Sure, it can run on the Switch, no problem there. Does that mean that you just download Crosscode and play it without having to pay Nintendo money? These are the complications and I think the roadblocks that they would have run into, as Phil Spencer is explaining, with the full Xbox experience. So something to think about there. I don't know at this point, based on all of that, if Game Pass or xCloud or any of that stuff will ever actually come to Nintendo's platform. I don't think it'll ever really come to Sony's. That hurts their network revenue. But hey, you never know, I guess. Never say never, right, going forward. But we'll see. One thing's for sure, that does kind of hurt Microsoft's plans, or even the idea of them getting into Japan much easier if they could just drop their app on the Switch, right? That'd be big time for them there. Next up, let's stick with Microsoft for a minute here and just move over to xCloud, because Microsoft is obviously pushing xCloud big time. It's their ticket to be able to reach those 2 billion gamers. I mean, obviously, that's something that Phil Spencer said a while ago, and a lot of people laughed, right? Because it's like 2 billion. Okay, Phil. But we see the potential of xCloud, right? Especially when it starts merging with cell phones as being a big thing. And I'm still not sold on that myself, because it's like, am I gonna bring my controller with me when I'm out and about playing? No, but if you can get to a point where it's just part of, I guess, the cell phone itself, or maybe just overall touchscreen controls get better, we'll see about all of that. But there is an interesting report, and even being called a leak now, as it's kind of expected to happen currently, with Samsung and one of their newer phones that's expected to be released August 5th. Now, this is a report coming from WinFuture as relayed by The Verge, where apparently Samsung's Note 20 Ultra, that's the one coming out August 5th, which, by the way, sounds like an insane device for a phone. 3200 by 1440 resolution, 120 hertz refresh rate on that 6.9 inch screen, and 12 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, that sounds like quite the device for being a phone that you would call people. Also, do people really call people anymore? I feel like they just text people. Anyway, that seems like quite the device for being a phone, but the biggest part here is that it's listed as being optimized for xCloud, as in Microsoft and Samsung could be partnering going forward, maybe even with future phones, as xCloud coming pre-installed on the system, and it even being advertised as a device that is ready to go out of the box for xCloud. Also, picture this. What if Microsoft said, hey, you know what? It just comes with a month or two of Game Pass. Go try it out, see what you think. That is an interesting idea based on how many phones Samsung sells in the year. It's a lot. It's a lot. So if they can all of a sudden start getting people interested that way, maybe who wouldn't have tried it otherwise, but they're like, well, I have it for free, let's try it out, and they get hooked on it, or even see some value to decide to continue subscribing, that could be Microsoft's big ticket in. And who knows, maybe xCloud starts popping up on other cell phone manufacturers' devices and they're off and running. We'll see, but it's something to keep an eye on. August 5th, we'll see if they mention xCloud there at their big event that they're going to have, and if maybe it's really even shown on the outside of the box of the phone itself. Very interesting stuff there. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 and the possibility of demo areas already being set up. And a lot of us are wondering, okay, when is the PlayStation 5 price going to be revealed? And when are those pre-orders going to open? There's going to be a mad dash for PlayStation 5 systems, whether it's from resellers or just people who, want to play the thing, right? But you can see this image here, and this was shared on Twitter, and it appears to be a kiosk area. This is from Iron Core Game, who shows off an image of, you can see kind of like a white couch slash kind of like sofa there. And then they also have a spot, it seems, for a TV and a PlayStation. I mean, it's obvious that it's PlayStation themed, and the white and blue kind of goes along, obviously, with the PlayStation 5. However, it was very quickly pointed out by several people in the comments and responses below that the white and blue PlayStation themes have been used for a while now, it seems, even for the PlayStation 4, with several examples being posted below that by users like Roberto Serrano, and then several others below that even. So I do kind of look at this and say, I feel like a lot of us just want to see the PlayStation 5 price. We want to believe that it's going on pre-order soon, and we even want to see demo units kind of set up to see these games in motion in person. But I will say most likely what we're seeing here is a demo unit that's probably been roped off currently, and it's just for PlayStation 4 purposes for now. I mean, think about it this way. Most of those PlayStation 4 kiosks can probably just have the PS5 changed out anyway. Most of them are just like white and blue PlayStation symbols, or blue with white PlayStation symbols, and they all kind of still work. So I really don't see this as being a big, hey, look, PlayStation 5 demos being set up soon. I just see this as being kind of a regular demo area that's just kind of there. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Seagate opening up the website for Microsoft's memory card. Do you remember we saw that expansion, the storage expansion from Seagate during their reveal for it? Because we were trying to figure out what that slot on the back was. A lot of us were like, hey, maybe they're bringing memory cards back. And technically they are. These are small little devices, NVMe based, that will apparently let you take storage and add to your Series X, or maybe even move between systems to I guess, just bring games and save games and all this with you, although that could also be part of, obviously, just uploading to your cloud. But to have a storage device that would be easily removable is great, and of course, it has to fit in with the speeds that they are working to kind of get to when it comes to the SSDs, so naturally, they're going with, I'm gonna say, more a proprietary solution with Seagate as their partner, and that's not too surprising. They've actually done some SSD external drives for the Xbox One and the Xbox One X and all of that now. So you can see their website here. Several images have popped up. And what's interesting is at the bottom, it does mention a 3-year limited warranty. So that's good. You can see the capacity 1 terabyte, custom PCIe Gen 4X2 NVMe, and then the form factor being the Xbox Series X storage expansion card. They have a spot that you can sign up if you want to learn more. And I mentioned pricing before. If you look on places like Amazon, for example, they do have the Seagate game drive for the Xbox, and that's 1 terabyte SSD, external storage for $197.99. So I would say most likely this is going to sit somewhere between $150 and $200. I would love to tell you it's going to be $150, but it's probably going to be $200. All right, let's be straight up about that. It's going to be an expensive piece because it's a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. It's not cheap in the first place, and then you're also bringing in a partner like Seagate to work alongside Microsoft. Everybody wants a bit of that profit, so it's not going to be cheap. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Lee Martin saying, when you were talking about WWE, I noticed you had a cut on your head. Did Stone Cold hit you with a steel chair? No, that actually would have been a cooler story than what happened. So in the weight room, brackets of weights, stand up. There's, of course, bars for the different weights where you put the little weights on, and I just grazed the top of my head on one, and I didn't feel like I cut it. Look over, of course, in the mirror, and just blood dribbling down. And I'm like, great. First thing I thought of was, that's going to show up on Newswave. It's something I guess we run into, obviously, if you're on YouTube every day. If anything scratches or anything on your face, it's questions and all of it, right? It's the way it is. It shows up on camera. So it's not really a cool story, I guess. Going forward, if you see scratches or cuts or anything on my face, just assume my other hobby is a cage fighter. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's Game Pass, mostly being on the Xbox and cell phones, it seems, even on PC, but not on Switch or PlayStation 4. Do you think that could still be a cool opportunity for Microsoft if they can work out the details with Nintendo, especially in Japan? I don't really ever see it going to PlayStation just because, like, PlayStation's their main competitor, but it's always interesting about the Switch having xCloud, something to think about. Also, what do you think about xCloud pushing forward with partnerships with different cell phone manufacturers like Samsung? And then, of course, this little SSD from Seagate, right? The little memory card. How much do you think that's going to be? Because that is definitely going to be a question of concern for a lot of people. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.